Regular meeting of the Cabell County Board of Education, and we'll call this meeting to order. I'll ask you to please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, we'll go ahead and move on to Section 2, informational items and special celebrations.
Good evening, President Polly, board members, Superintendent Hardesty, General Counsel Hornbuckle Myers. It is wonderful to be with you this evening. We have lots to celebrate. We're going to begin with Wendy Barker, who was named the West Virginia School Nurse of the Year. And we do a lot on social media. I spend a lot of time getting to celebrate kids and our staff. And I'm not sure I have ever seen a reception quite as warm as the one that was extended to Miss Barker. Her work speaks, but I'm going to invite Mr. Krenzel up to tell you a little bit about the School Nurses Association and their selection process, and then we'll let Miss Barker address you as well.
Good evening, Superintendent Hardesty, President Pauly, and board members, and Ms. Myers. If it's okay, I'd like to read from a script I prepared to tell a little bit about the award and Ms. Barker. On an annual basis, the West Virginia Association of School Nurses publicly recognizes and honors one school nurse statewide who demonstrates excellence in school nurse state practice and leadership in school health. Nominations are generally made from school administrators, supervisors, fellow educators, school nurse colleagues, parents, or members of the community. Throughout her impressive 32-year career, Ms. Wendy Barker has consistently demonstrated an unwavering commitment to excellence and compassion of her students in the role of school nurse. Her meticulous attention to detail, combined with her ability to remain composed and focused under pressure, has set her apart as a true leader in her field. Her extensive experience spans across various roles within school nursing, including lead, special education, and regular education school nurse. During this time, she's also worked 21 consecutive years of cardiac nursing with St. Mary's Hospital. Her dedication to professional development is evident through her attainment of her National Board Certification of School Nursing and Certified Diabetes Educator certifications, each requiring substantial hours of continuing education to ensure the delivery of best practice care. She also has played a pivotal role in developing and facilitating WVDE school nurse courses, presenting at the West Virginia Association of School Nurse seminars, providing webinars for school nurses at Marshall University, and facilitating training in our county for staff where needed. She is loved by her students and families and is well regarded and respected by her peers and colleagues, even at the State Department level. Today, out of 55 counties in the state of West Virginia, we are proud to celebrate Ms. Wendy Barker as Cabell County's first West Virginia School Nurse of the Year.
Thank you. I just wrote something up really quick, won't be but a minute. I'm very honored for the recognition. As you can imagine, school nursing's near and dear to my heart. I feel like school nurses are an important team member in the school. I feel like we work to identify and intervene in health-related barriers to education. And in my 32 years, I have had students come to me with various needs. We may have students with chronic conditions. We may have students that need medication daily or maybe a special diet. We also provide healthcare procedures daily. These may include things like insulin administration through insulin pump or an insulin pen, working with continuous glucose meters, working with trachs, vents, G-tube feeding. So, it's quite a bit. I feel like that through coordination of care, school nurses, simply put, keep kids in schools. I feel like it's been my pleasure to work with the students and the families in the community And I think, after all, every student deserves a school nurse. Thank you very much.
Thank you. It's a wonderful honor, Ms. Barker, and I've heard nothing but good things about you and how positive and wonderful you are to work with. And even people who seek your advice who may not necessarily be in our system have said great things about you. So thank you.
Ms. Barker, if you'll hang out, we'll do pictures at the end. We have 2 more. Thank you. We have 2 of our schools that have been recognized as model schools. I know here we sing praises for the work that's being done, but when it comes from an outside perspective or a nationwide recognition or a statewide recognition, it just adds credence, I think, to the wonderful things we know are happening in the schools every day. So the first one we're going to talk about is Huntington East Middle School. They were recognized as a PBIS model school. PBIS is Positive Behavioral Interventions and Supports, and it's their behavior management program. I'm going to let Mr. Mann tell you a little bit more about that award, and then we'll invite Mr. Pennington up.
Good evening, everybody. I just wanted to talk a little bit about kind of the definition of the award, and then let Mr. Pennington tell you how he got there and what all they're doing at Huntington East. So this recognition signifies the school's exceptional commitment to implementing the positive behavioral interventions and supports framework with fidelity. PBIS is an evidence-based approach that instills positive rewards for good behavior rather than being punitive. A model school such as Huntington East showcases a remarkable level of that implementation and demonstrates fidelity in the majority of the PBIS features. So it's a testament to what Mr. Pennington is doing at Huntington East with his staff and working towards getting those positive interventions in place. And I'm going to invite him up to talk a little bit more about what they're doing.
Good evening. I'm supposed to go in order, right? President Pauly,
Whatever you want to do.
Superintendent Mr. Hardesty, Sharon Hornbuckle Myers now. Okay. And the rest of the board, just to kind of give you an idea of what we've done at Huntington East. We needed PBIS more, as the whole framework for the staff and the students, to give it a little bit of a spin on it. How you approach some of these students basically decides if they're going to be suspended or not. And when they kind of butt heads, staff, students, it's just trying to get everybody rowing in the same direction. Whether it would be students, staff, but speaking to them positive, telling them what they're doing correctly rather than what they're doing wrong. And so it is a shift that, not everybody jumps on board, but when they do and you get everybody rowing in the same direction, and you'd be surprised how the students will react to just simple rules and knowing expectations. And that's the biggest thing that we do. We have signs all over the place telling them exactly what they should be doing. Every classroom has what we call the Bears board. It takes the guesswork. You're not going to have a student in Huntington East raise their hand and be like, "Are we doing anything today?" Or "What are we doing today?" Like, it is everywhere, already on there. Kind of the design is to take the anxiety of stress out of it because it's right there on the board. They know exactly what to expect. We go over everything with them so they know how to act in the hallway transitions, in the classroom, in the gym, in the cafeteria. It's a constant reminder. Actually, we turn off the bells for the first couple weeks, and I'm the voice of the intercom. And if you know anything about Huntington East, they can actually hear me down at Walmart. I go to church, and they're like, "I heard you letting the kids out of class the other day." So it's a little haunting hearing your voice all day too, but the kids know, and they march down the hall, and if they're not doing it right, it's how you interact with them. Yeah, you might have a teacher who wasn't doing PBIS to be like, you go back, try that again. Now it's more, I'll see them doing it. I'll go, look at you, good job, walking on the right side. And it's just, the kids like it, and we put a lot of hard work into it. We have several people from Huntington East that come down here with us, and they do it all. I'm just a voice on the intercom, but they make sure that we're ready. The students know exactly what's going on. The teachers know what's going on, and so it really helped us move the school a little bit this year.
Good job. We really appreciate the hard work you are putting in making a change at Huntington East. And I know it's difficult because you have to get everyone on board. Teachers, everyone in the school has to be on board for this to work. And it sounds like under your leadership, that's what's happened. So appreciate.
We appreciate it. We're not finished. We're just getting started. So
Yeah, absolutely.
We're gonna have another good year.
Absolutely. Oh.
Oh yeah, come on up. They're gonna be bashful. We'll get them. Come on up, guys.
She said.
Come on.
The one girl said, "No way."
Thank you for what you're doing. It's fabulous.
Thank you.
We appreciate you so much, more than words could tell you. Congratulations.
Thank you, guys.
And we have in our group another model school. Central City Elementary was honored as a model school at the Model Schools Conference. So of the model schools, they are a model school. 5 representatives from Central City shared their presentation called From Challenges to Triumphant Academic Growth, with over 5,000 conference attendees from across the United States, as well as international guests this summer at a conference. So I'm going to invite Ms. Holly up to tell you a little bit about that and how their walk to, let me get this right. Yes, their walk to intervention structure was recognized and earned them this award. Ms. Holly?
Good evening, President Polly, distinguished members of the board, Mrs. Hornbuckle Myers, and Superintendent Hardesty. First of all, I just want to give you a little background. I was the assistant principal at Central City 3 years ago. We went to the Model Schools Conference. It was fabulous. Several of the ladies behind me went. We loved it. We soaked it all in. The second summer, we went back, and we said, our data's better than the model schools. Hello. Seriously. So I got with Gina Barnett. We worked on it. She applied for us. She did our videos. Then Kim Burgess started working on it. Come on. And she got the teachers ready. She's the academic coach there at Central City. And we went, they have these different workshops that you go to, but they also have where you can hear from model schools and how they're doing it, boots on the ground, and you get to see their data, and I'm a big data person, so you get to see what they're doing and how they've made their achievement. And we had made more growth in the schools and the model schools, and I'm like, hello. So we went through it, and we applied, and we're accepted as a model school. And we thought it would be for a workshop. They said, no, you're a model school. So we're really proud of Central City. So this summer we went and presented. And now I am principal at Guyandotte, but I'm just taking that over there because walk to intervention is what did the work. And the teachers are amazing. They start with pre-data, find out what standards are missing, and teach them. And it's a miraculous process, and their data shows it. They really did a great job. So I'm really proud of them.
Very good. Yeah,
Yes,
come
they
on
do.
down.
They do. They did the work. They did
Yes,
the work.
congratulations to Central City
Come
on all the hard work.
Oh, wow. And they presented nationally. I mean, it was amazing. 5,000 plus.
Very good.
And they were already asking us to come back, and we were like,
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
I wish we had asked the educators from Huntington East Middle to introduce themselves.
Yeah, I was
And
gonna
then we
say
could back up and do that, but if these people could introduce themselves and tell what they teach or what they do at the school?
Yeah.
Hello. Okay, I'm Haley, and I taught third grade at Central City, and now I teach kindergarten at Salt Rock. But I'm gonna cry. Sorry.
No.
I'm just. It was amazing. So thank you.
Yes, absolutely.
My name is Kim Burgess. Hi.
Hi.
And I taught fifth grade at Central City for many years, and now I'm the academic coach for the last 3. And we're all into the common assessments and portfolios and
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Tabitha Payne, and I am the K2 academic coach at Central City. This is my 2nd year, so last year I was pretty new to the process, but I had done walk-to intervention before, so I was pretty comfortable with it, and what Central City is doing is really amazing.
Very good.
Hi, I'm Brittany Blankenship, and I teach 2nd grade at Central City, and I've been there for 12 years now. So I have seen a lot of change at Central City, and we are just moving up, keep going up.
Yeah, very good. Thank you.
Well, and we also have the principal back there, Miss Ramey, and the assistant principal, Miss Tammy McCourt, and the other assistant, Matt Hicks, back there. I had the pleasure of sitting in on their presentation at the conference, and it was a packed house. Both times. They were amazing. And really and truly, they also presented at our summer conference for all of our teachers. Their walk to intervention model has truly started making a success. And now that our data the embargo's not there, you've grown this year 6 points in reading, 7 points in math, which is huge. And they are continued on the up and up. I invite you to come and watch their walk to intervention plan, because it truly is a model for other schools as well. And I think they do share it with everybody, but we're seeing great success there. And I have to really commend them, as well as Huntington East. And I'm going to give a shout out, because the process started, actually Mr. Boggs brought PBIS to Huntington Middle when he was the executive director of middle schools. And as we've started putting that in place, it takes the staff, and Jessica and Tanisha, I've been in Tanisha's room. Jessica, I've been with her as they do their walkthroughs, and just the whole dedication of that staff. At our State of the Schools last year, we saw their data. By no means is it where we want it to be, but they had tremendous gains in just attendance alone. And that's huge. And that only happens because you have a hardworking staff that's dedicated to the students of Cabell County, and this staff truly does. They are amazing, and I can't wait to see, what happens this year. I have to brag on them, because both of these schools have just made tremendous gains, and they need to be highly commended, and I'm so happy that we got to recognize them tonight.
Ms. Childers, would you like the friends from Huntington East to come introduce themselves?
We could sure try.
I'll start us off. Hi, my name's Gabe Muncie, Assistant Principal at Huntington East Middle School. Very thankful for this position, very thankful for Cabell County Schools. Started my career as an aide, worked for summer maintenance, progressed to a teacher. Now here I am as an assistant principal. Very happy, very motivated to be successful. Thank you all, Cabell County Schools, for this opportunity.
Very good. That's a great story.
Hi, I'm Jessica Kuhn. I'm the academic coach at Huntington East, and I have been there my entire teaching career, so I'm really excited to see the growth that we're making.
Very good. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Tanisha Sturdivant. I am the 6th grade math teacher, and I am really excited to be a part of Huntington East and watch our school grow over the years. So thank you.
Thank you.
Do you all mind to take some photos?
Sure.
Let's do it.
Yeah, if we could get that
some of our administrators. Yeah, Robin played the saxophone.
Right now, is that what you mean? You can go down there while they're all exiting.
Drew.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
And they're all sitting back there together.
I think that door's opened and it pulls it all.
That's what I said. That's when it clears out. Sometimes we have one or two people, and they're mostly the administrators.
Okay, we'll move on to 2.02, the update in instruction and leadership. Ms. Watts?
Thank you, President Polly, Superintendent Hardesty, Ms. Hornbuckle-Myers, board members. As you can tell, I'm very proud. Even though Mr. Boggs started PBIS, Mr. Mann is continuing that through the middle schools, and we'll eventually have more presentations about what PBIS is within our school system, as we've got the high schools and elementaries in those programs as well, because we work very closely with Marshall University on that plan. So, my instructional update, we have two contracts that are on the board agenda. One of them is Prestera, and Keith Thomas from Student Support will talk to you about that. And Lingual Care from Special Ed, Suzanne Stevens will address that one.
Thank you, Ms. Watts. On the agenda this evening, we do have a contract, two contracts for Prestera, and I just want to briefly speak on what those two contracts are about and explain what or how we collaborate with Prestera Behavioral Health Services. One of the contracts for Prestera is our school-based mental health. We do realize and understand the need to address mental health in our schools, so we have partnered with Prestera to provide school-based mental health services in all of our schools. They provide Tier 2 and Tier 3 support to our students. They have 8 therapists who provide support to our students and 5 bachelor-level therapists who provide support to our students. 5 case managers, that's what I was trying to think of. They don't only just provide support to our students, but they work with the families as well, and they provide support plans to support not just a child, but in the home. They provide extra support when we have situations going on within the school, whether it's a crisis situation, whether it's a student being injured at home. We actually had a situation last year where a kid accidentally shot another kid. They're usually the first to call to go out to the home and provide support to that family and those kids. So the school-based mental health support services go beyond the school, but they do, it's a total of 13 employees with Prestera to provide the school-based mental health services. Any questions on the school-based portion before I get into the other contract?
Yeah, I'm just curious, do we put a bid out for this type of contract, or?
No, we do not as of yet. Prestera, and I'll tell you why we haven't yet. Prestera is the biggest or largest mental health provider in the area, and they struggle to get enough support. They're actually short now on providing support, but that's something we can look at doing.
Yeah, just curious. It may be helpful in the future as the market grows, as resources expand. It's good to have opportunities for other providers than just the Prestera or whatever agency. So.
Sure. Thank you. Yep. Any other questions on the school-based portion?
So are you saying they don't have enough employees to?
They struggle to completely staff the schools. I mean, we have 27 schools and they have a total of 13 therapists and case managers working. They could use more. It's just all across the board with every behavioral health program, they struggle to keep therapists. Even in our schools,
So this contract is for 13 employees, but if they had more to serve us,
yes,
it would be
they're
a
actually
bigger contract.
Absolutely, yeah. They try to at least do 15, and sometimes they have more, sometimes they have less, depending on who leaves, who stays, and it fluctuates depending on the individual. Yep.
And Keith, while you're up there, there's going to be a question on the finance section. We've got some vouchers to approve that some of them were cut to Prestera, and neither of the amounts were in the same amount that's requested in this contract. So I'm just curious, like, what's our current contract with Prestera, and do we bill services outside of that?
We do not bill services outside of that. Prestera they will bill the families if they have insurance, but if they do not, the Prestera provides the services, but we do not bill. As far as the vouchers, I'd have to look at it. I'm not sure.
So what's the current contract we hold with Prestera?
You have it, Drew, in front of you. $146,000 for the school-based services.
Okay, so this is the same. We're just renewing.
Yep.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I'm glad you asked because they have not raised that amount in the 5 years that I've been in this position. And the same way with interchange, and I'm getting ready to talk about. The other contract is the interchange program, in which it's an intensive treatment plan for middle school and high school students, to where students from that grade level go to Prestera 5 days a week for educational and therapeutic support. So they're providing students who struggle with behavior, who struggle with mental health, and who struggle with substance abuse. They take those kind of students into the interchange program, and they work with those individual students 6 to 9 weeks just to get them acclimated back into the school setting. So that's what interchange is. They work very well with us. It is an intensive program. So these kids are getting therapy and education while at interchange during that week. So the funds that we're providing is for the teacher to be there at interchange and to provide the educational support.
So these are kids that are expelled?
No. These are students that we identified that could benefit from the interchange program.
So are they there all day?
Yes, from 8 o'clock to 2 o'clock. It's very similar to a normal school day, except they'll take certain hours and do the therapy portion. Yeah, it can be expelled students, but normally it's not. It's students that are struggling at the school level. The counselor will call me. We'll work with Prestera to do an intake and see if they qualify for the program. Hardly ever do they tell us no.
So assuming this contract's the same as the last one, it says that they're required to submit a progress report biannually, number of students served, type of services provided, et cetera. Do we have that from last year?
Yeah, we actually, I don't have it with me, but they send us a monthly report on how many students that they service.
Okay.
And I'll be glad to share it with you when we're away from here, but I don't have
Give
that.
me last year's numbers. That would be great just to take a look. Thank you.
Sure. Any other questions? Prestera has been very good to us. I sing their praises because anytime, any situation that we've ever had, whether it be just a little bit abnormal or something big or major, they're there to help every time.
So we have a separate one for the interchange program?
Yes,
A separate
yes.
contract?
Mhm.
I don't see that on the agenda.
Oh, it's not tonight, though. I don't.
It's not in. Say it again. Oh, okay, that's why. The interchange doesn't exceed 100,000. I knew we had 2 MOUs, that's why.
Okay.
Sorry.
No, thank you.
I know that, and for that, we're paying a teacher less than what we pay our teachers. That's how well they work with us. And they've never raised the pay of that teacher in the 5 years we've been here.
So it's a Cabell County Schools teacher?
Ultimately, yes, because we're paying for it. They're employed through Prestera. We're
Okay.
funding a teacher there. So we support them just like we would our own teacher.
So she's getting less?
A little bit, yes.
Huh, I don't think.
Not much different, but they're just, and I say that to say this, that they work with us around our funds on what we have available.
Okay.
Yep. But I do expect an offer to come soon on a raise for that, just because it's
That's a
been
good
5
idea.
years.
They're not.
Any other questions?
Thank you.
All right, thanks.
Good evening, President Polly, members of the board, Mr. Hardesty, Mr. Sharon Hornbuckle Myers. Of course, I have the Lingua Care contract, okay? And we have that contract in place because Policy 2419 limits us to numbers that we can have on speech therapist caseloads. And we currently are 2 speech positions down based on the needs that we need in Cabell County. Last year, we were several therapists down, as well as there is a shortage all over the United States regarding speech therapists. We last year contracted with Lingua Care, All Aboard, Mountain State, and Developmental Therapy Center to do homebound services for students that had speech on their homebound IEPs. This year, since we were 2 down, we wanted to start the year out with a contract in place that we could start providing services to students that had speech on their IEPs so that we were not behind in providing those services. Last year, we were behind in providing them. We had to offer compensatory hours to several students through the school year with picking up these contracts. We also finished the summer with providing compensatory services. We had a state complaint filed in May regarding services through speech due to the shortage of speech therapists last year, but all of those hours were made up, so we were good with that. But that is why we have the Lingua Care contract on here tonight for approval, so that we can provide the speech therapy services to the students with disabilities. So do y'all have any questions regarding that?
Ma'am, sounds like we definitely need to be proactive in that.
Yes, yes.
Appreciate it.
That was my question.
Okay, thank you.
Hey, you answered it.
That concludes. Okay, we move on to the update and operations and support. Mr. Boggs.
Good evening, Board President Polly, board members, Superintendent Hardesty, and General Counsel. I want to give you a brief update on operations support. However, I've also got some contracts and different things on this agenda as well. I want to go ahead and discuss. And feel free at any time to stop me, and I will try to answer any of those questions. So the first project that I'm going to update you on is the Meadows Elementary. If you were to go up down to Warehouse Road at the new Meadows Elementary site, you're going to see the light pole bases are installed. The plumbing and electrical workers are following the bricklayers to make sure that there's coordination and the work is going smoothly there and on schedule. Actually, they're ahead of schedule there. Steel decking installation continues. They are just about, with the good weather, we do expect them to be, and I know I mentioned this last time, in the dry, meaning, you know, the roof will be on and they'll be able to work indoors sometime in October. Exterior brickwork continues. You're going to see the black veneer brick on the multi-purpose room there, as well as the cafeteria. They've got brick on that as well. And the ductwork and sprinkler work has started, and the HVAC or the rooftop units are on site. So again, you're looking at a couple pictures there. They've already started blocking in around the windows, and a lot of the brickwork has started. And again, we've been blessed with good weather to be able to do any type of site work at Meadows Elementary. Any questions on this project? Okay. I'm going to go ahead and move on to Milton Elementary.
Wait, pause.
Yes, sir.
And this might be towards Mr. Hardesty. We had discussed looking at solar options as those sites develop. Did we get any news back on that?
I can actually. Do you want me to go ahead and respond to that? Yeah, we've actually talked to a vendor. They are getting us some quotes and different options to be able to look at that and see what that's going to cost. So we've actually engaged with them a couple days after that, and we're just waiting for them. It does take them a while to do that because they are required to look at energy bills at some of the schools. The one struggle that they are having is a lot of these schools that we were going to possibly look at are new buildings, so we don't really know what the energy costs will be in the new building. So they're having to look at what the old building is, which we don't expect the energy costs to be that substantially great at those old buildings. But we're in the process of that.
Excellent, thank you.
I should expect something in the next, really any day now, to be honest with you.
That's exciting, thank you.
Thank you for asking that.
So on to Milton Elementary. Plumbing and electrical HVAC work installation continues, painting continues in many of the classrooms. The roof work is complete. They've actually cleaned on top of the roof. Playground fence posts have been installed. The playground, contractor that we're working for that, they're going to be coming in at a later date. But everything is prepped is being prepped on the outside. The furniture, just got word actually this morning that the furniture is scheduled to be installed on 11/18/24, and included in that package is the installation, trash removal, all of that stuff from the vendor on that. Tile installation has started in the restroom area, and all utilities are fully functional. Windows are in place and everything, and it's a beautiful site when you drive up to that at Milton Elementary. Any questions on this project? At the Woody Williams Center for Advanced Learning and Careers, or the old Sears building, electricians continue to. I always say that. I mean, it seems like I'm saying the same thing here. This is an enormous project. Actually, this project is bigger than all the other projects combined. But they continue to run conduit, metal stud installation, drywall work continues, painting in areas. There's just a lot of coordination there because you've got people doing. You've got drywallers, you've got block layers, plumbers, electricians. They are all running around each other. It's organized chaos in that building. Again, ductwork installation, structural steel is occurring on the second floor. So what you're looking at right there is the main entrance as you come in. You see a lot of the metal studs there, a lot of the, and then open areas, or you're going to see windows. They're going to be going in that area, and that's just kind of the grand, I call it the grand entrance or the atrium walking into that project. Any questions on this one? All right, so in the agenda, under consent agenda, there's a couple items, and the selection of architects and engineering services for school building authority projects. And I've updated some of the board members. If you were on the board, we had received 2 grants from the school building authority. So the first grant was Ona Elementary, and that we were receiving from the school building authority. That was a little over almost $17 million from the school building authority, and in that application, the county was to provide $2 million for that. Now, that grant is very specific to new construction, and that was announced probably, when was that, Drew? Back in It was around April. Governor Justice went to the school building authority, and they ended up funding all of the projects that were applied for. Initially, this was not awarded, and then they came back and ended up awarding all of the projects. And another project that was actually did not make the cut prior to that was the Cabell Middle and High School STEM and cafeteria expansion. And that one is $1 million contributed by the school building authority, and $1.6 million by the county for the STEM and cafeteria expansion. And what that really is, I mean, the new school for Ona Elementary is self-explanatory, but the STEM is science, technology, engineering, math, and then that is kind of a flexible area, an expansion of the cafeterias to where they could use that for robotics, drones, different things like that, as well as a larger area at Cabell Middle and High School during the lunchtime. As a former administrator at Cabell Middle and High School, it's very crowded in the, you have students sitting in the hallways. You worked at Cabell Midland. It's with a couple lunches, there's not a lot of extra seating in that area, because you've got class, half the school is in class, and then the other half is at lunch at any given time. So those are the 2 projects. Now, what I'm going to go, before I start talking about the architects and engineering things that we're proposing for you for each of these projects is it's important to note that these are specific to the grants. That one is for the STEM at Cabell Middle, and the other one is for a new school at Ona Elementary. And there's an expiration date on this, and that is April of 2027. So these funds have to be expended prior to that, and it has to be a substantial completion. It has to be completed. So you do have to do that unless you ask for an extension, which may or may not be provided. So the proposal for this is for the new Ona Elementary, and we did back in, I believe it was May, that we put a proposal out in the newspaper asking for submittals on architectural engineering services for these two projects. We ended up having 4 architectural and engineering firms that applied for this. We had Thrasher Group, Edward Tucker, ZMM, and McKinley. McKinley, ZMM, and Edward Tucker are current architects that we are using at 3 different locations. Milton Elementary is McKinley, ZMM is going to be the Woody Williams Center, as well as Meadows Elementary, and then Edward Tucker is doing the Davis Creek, which just recently opened. So what we, based on the application and all of the rubrics that are utilized by the SBA, and we put that out in the paper. We set up the interviews. We did interview these firms, asked them the specific questions. And again, we had worked with all of them but one, which was Thrasher, but we had worked with that architect on a prior project that worked with another firm at one time that we currently use. And the one that was selected based on the criteria and the interviews and the submissions that they had in their packages was ZMM. For the new Ona Elementary project. Now, I'm going to talk a moment about ZMM, and I actually have Dave Ferguson, which is Chief Architect with ZMM. If you have any specific questions for him, you may or may not. But we, again, are working with 2 projects on them. They have extensive knowledge and experience working with school building authority projects. This is a little different to work with school building authority projects because you are bound by all of the guidelines in, Drew, help me, how's it, 6200 in policy 6200 on the West Virginia Board of Education policy 6200. So they have to follow those guidelines. There are certain guidelines as far as square footage, various different things. I mean, it's just very, very specific for that. So not all, but some have experience working through that. And you actually have a school building authority representative that attends the construction meetings. They manage this very, very closely. They do inspections on these buildings after the fact to come in and check the work on that and inspect those for multiple years after that. So that was based on those interviews and the submissions for that. That was the proposal for the new Ona Elementary. Now, was ZMM. Going on to Cabell Middle and High School, the STEM and cafeteria expansion, even though we had four different architectural and engineering firms submit this, Edward Tucker was chosen for the Cabell Middle and High School STEM and cafeteria expansion. This is not, and Edward Tucker does a nice job as well. They have worked with us for the Davis Creek. And many of you got to come to the Davis Creek Elementary. That's a beautiful building. And they do exceptional work. Phoebe Randolph designs exceptional buildings, and we have a good working relationship with her, and we thought that would be a good fit for this project as well. So based on that information, these are the proposals that we have for this. And again, in those interviews, they bring in a packet, a portfolio, they submit this information, and then we asked very, very specific questions to the projects. And again, we had worked with three out of the four firms for that. Are there any questions that I can address for this? I'll be happy to answer those.
Yeah, so I've got two rubrics here, and they're identical?
Yes.
So these are the...
So that we did one interview. You are going to see two rubrics that are identical, and I put one under the ONA, one under the Cabell Middle and High School. There was, and ZMM did. The ZMM did come out as the highest ranking one of these. However, Edward Tucker was. It was not that. I mean, I'll be honest with you. The experience with ZMM and the School Building Authority and all those multiple projects. That's why they came out on top of that. However, we also, like we said, we've used multiple different architects, and then we would be able to use Edward Tucker for the other one. So we just did one interview, but then we would be able to give them the other job if approved by the board tonight, to be able to do that. So that is one rubric. We did not split them up. And again, you could offer one of these projects, and they could also decline that. So they may opt not to do that.
Yeah, I'm really glad they're in the room, because, I mean, the question comes down to capacity and time, because we're on a deadline. So we want whoever does it to be able to do a good job and get it done in time. If ZMM's most qualified and they do the best work and there's not a huge price difference, then by choosing them for Ona Elementary, we're saying that, you know, kind of they're the best. So I'm curious, is there a time constraint or a capacity constraint with ZMM where they wouldn't be interested in the STEM project?
Well, I will definitely, I mean, we as the committee decided that we would go ahead and use 2 different architectural firms, because right now ZMM is working with the Career Center, which is an enormous project.
Sure.
I can tell you right now, they by all means have the capacity to be able to do these projects. They do an absolute wonderful job for us, but they're also doing Meadows Elementary. I will tell you that Meadows Elementary and the Career Center are on schedule, if not ahead of schedule on many things. So the capacity is not an issue there, but there's a lot of coordination, and there's a lot of things that occur that weather occurs and different things like that as well. So they definitely have the capacity to do that. But we also want to look at other designs and other options from other architectural firms as well. And that was why we selected them for the Cabell Middle and High School cafeteria expansion.
Mr. Byers, I think to answer your question a little more directly, and Mr. Ferguson can verify this, I believe we have a chief or principal architect on the Career Center.
Mm-hmm.
We have a different architect on Meadows, and Mr. Ferguson plans on being the architect on Ona. So it's not, am I correct there, Mr. Ferguson? So it would not be the same architect being overextended somewhere.
Right. So if they were offered and accepted, the cafeteria expansion, who would you put on it? Or would you guys even be interested? Not that I'm offering to you, I'm just very curious. Do you guys want the job? I mean, and I'm curious because we're given a rubric
Sure.
to determine it, and they clearly outscore Edward Tucker.
Yeah.
And Edward Tucker does a great job, because I just at Davis Creek.
Yeah.
But if we're talking about the students in Cabell County, we want the best.
Absolutely.
And if they're the best, that's who we want. So I'm just trying to figure out.
But, and again, we've got an exceptional relationship with ZMM, but we also have that with Edward Tucker as well. And being able to, and again, we're working with McKinley at Milton Elementary, and it is kind of nice to see, because every architect has their own style and their way to get to that end goal, and they've got different avenues to do that. But they all have designed exceptional buildings, and we've got good relationships with all of them. However, that is up to the board to determine how they want to approach that.
So the rubric's just kind of like a suggestion and a courtesy, not necessarily what we go by always.
You do not, I mean, as a board, you have the opportunity to go with who you want.
Okay.
Is that accurate, Mr.
That's
Hurst?
my understanding, yes.
Sure.
Yes.
So I thought that was very interesting too, that the Edward Tucker firm was significantly less than the rate on the rubric score. And yet we're going with them for a project. And I know, I understand your reason, because we've used them so many times, and they've done it.
They've done High Lawn as well.
And they've done exceptional work. Yeah, so that was your reasoning, even though they scored.
Actually, I put that on the agenda as my recommendation, and the reason behind that is not anything against ZMM at all. I wanted to continue a working relationship with Edward Tucker with Cabell County Schools as we move forward.
Okay.
Thank you for the transparency in that answer.
I can tell you, Reed, that in all the years that I've been here, we've used David and Phoebe as our contractors or architects, They're wonderful. I can tell you that I have all the confidence in the world with those 2 firms. They have just been outstanding. If that makes you feel any better.
Oh, yeah, I mean, I'm confident. I was just looking at the rubric I was provided, and there was definitely a scoring discrepancy, so I wanted to be clear on why we're choosing the other firm.
Oh,
Sure.
I understand. I understand. It was a good question.
Thank you.
I just wanted to tell you, from my experience,
They're tops. They're tops. You can pay me later.
Thanks, Justin.
All right, I'm going to go ahead and go on to the next page. There are policy
Mr. Boggs, I apologize. If you could go back one page.
Absolutely.
That bottom line on there says funds expire April 30th, 2024. That is incorrect date. I don't know if you pointed that out.
Should be 2027.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Just wanted to clarify that.
Yeah, he said 2027.
Thank you. And there's another mistake, as you see on this. This is not policy updates. Now that we're and this was Charleston filter contract. This is just other notes. Ignore the policy updates. We'll get to that in a minute. Is 4.06 Charleston filter contract, and what that is this is a service that is not required to go out to bid. This has actually been the same price for approximately, let me look at my notes, 16 years. On Charleston Filter, and what this company does out of Charleston, we have a lot of our HVAC units that have specific filters. They have to cut many of those things. We do have 4 folks in our HVAC department. However, if we had them doing nothing but filters, that's all they would do all the time. They wouldn't be able to fix the units. They would just be able to do the filters for the schools. And with the multiple schools that we have and the different places that those are located throughout the buildings, they keep track of that, and they are able to cut that to make sure that the air is clean, and that also helps extend the life of the HVAC units throughout the district. Yes, ma'am.
I had a couple questions on the previous slide.
Yes.
Reed distracted me with his good question. So one is, where does that money come from, that 17 million, and the money for, I know you said it's state money, but is it?
That is appropriated by the West Virginia legislature. Is that, I just want to make sure that that's accurate.
Coming from federal money, though, that they got?
I'm going to defer to Mr. Rockton on that.
Thank you. It's my understanding, and I don't work for the SBA, I work for Cabell County Schools, but it's my understanding that that's actually revenue that the state has. I think the Lottery Commission is involved, and they are able to sell bonds. And the bonds that they sell, that provides a budget every year that the SBA is able to allocate. On an average year, they have about $50 million a year they're able to allocate amongst 55 county school boards, plus any regional career centers. We're blessed here in Cabell County. We have our own career center, but there are quite a few career centers that 2 or 3 counties share. And so the SBA also helps provide funding for facility needs at those types of schools as well. But it's my understanding that it is state money that I think they get. I think, like I said, I think there's some lottery proceeds that help, but a lot of it is they sell bonds, and those bond funds are then allocated out each year through a selection process. In our case, both the ONA and the Cabell Midland projects, they were submitted to the School Building Authority for consideration. They funded all that they had money because they only had about $50 million. That's all that they had. We fell below the line. However, during the legislative session, the legislature provided a bunch of money. I forget the number offhand, but I want to say it's $150 million, but they provided a bunch of additional money out of the state's general budget to basically clean the slate and fund all the projects that were on the board statewide, and so we were on the table. And so in our case, this really is one-time money that's available to fund these 2 projects that otherwise we would have to try again next year. But thankfully, because the legislature appropriated these additional funds, we have the grant money secured. 16.9 for ONA, and then $1 million for the Cabell Midland project.
Thanks.
Do you have any other questions?
And another quick one was, do we have a site for ONA?
That has not been determined yet. I know that when we proposed this to the School Building Authority in our application to them, we actually go and present to the School Building Authority one of the proposals that it would possibly be on site. However, A lot of that is contingent on suitable soil, different, is there, there hypothetically could be room on that particular site, but it's not really determined yet. It may be more beneficial, and I say may, doesn't mean that it will be, more beneficial to build at another location. However, if it can be built there and the geotechnical engineers and the architects, and again, that's part of this process, is there is a flat fee with this of approximately 6% for a new project like that would go to an architectural firm. What they are really charged with doing, if approved tonight, is be able to determine that, to say what are, to be able to do that research, to be able to say an appropriate site for that. So it could possibly be on site if that soil is appropriate and there's enough room and there's multiple different factors on that. However, sometimes it might be more beneficial to go to another location as well, because there's a lot of things, whether dealing with traffic, dealing with the soil. And I know more about geotechnical testing and different things over the last year, and how much clay, tased clay and different things like that play a factor in building on, and how important that is. But that's why we defer those things to the professionals, not former administrators, to determine that appropriate site to bring to you of where it could possibly be.
Thank you.
So will we be informed whether that site's viable before a new site's explored?
Yes. Actually, I mean, Dave, do you mind just kind of explaining them the process and everything moving forward? And I'm gonna be very transparent on this. I have seen the back end of what it looks like after a building has started. Mr. Hardesty has seen it from the beginning. This is the first time of me going through starting with a new site moving forward. So I'm actually going to defer to the expert on that to kind of explain that process, and I think that may clarify some stuff for you.
Sure. The first thing we do is basically access the site, do soil borings, do some survey work, and hire folks to do those things so we get engineering reports back. If the soil is suitable, if we have to have deep foundations, or is it soup and you have to replace it. So we just have to really just investigate the site the very first thing, make sure it fits, make sure the traffic flow, and present all that stuff to either the board or the staff, and get your opinions, get your thoughts, and then we'll meet with a design committee for the school, just like we have on every other project, and go through the program of spaces and all the classrooms and other rooms that will be required for the building. And there's basically 4 phases to the project. You have the initial phase where you get your funding, and then you have what's called schematic design. So we take those shapes of classrooms together, put them together in some kind of a form, and put it on the site and make sure it fits. And then and at every phase, keep in mind, we go through a budget, and we have to reconcile the budget on every phase, and it has to be submitted to the school building authority for approval as well, since they're funding this project. Then the next phase would be design development, and then we take that floor plan and refine it, come up with elevations and color schemes, and present that to the committee, present it to the board and the SBA for approval. And then the final thing is construction documents, bidding documents, so we can finish the project and go out to bid. And usually that takes around, I want to say 9 months, maybe less, depend on how fast we can get through the school year with everything going on with teachers and programs. But that's it in a nutshell. Do you have any questions or anything?
Thank you. Yeah, so when it comes to Meadows or Milton, I think both the sites were changed from what we voted on in the bond. And the bond did say if the site wasn't viable, then they could choose a different location. Did that require board approval? Like, did the board know that the site was being changed?
I think the only site that changed after the fact was Milton. I think Meadows was always up on the hill, because we went through about, I think, 19 sites or something on Meadows.
Mr. Byers, any property purchase would come before the board, so for consideration, if that's what you're asking. So the board approved any property purchase that we make.
So I think what he's talking about is that 10-year plan.
Correct.
Yeah.
We talked about that.
The CEFP.
What the majority of citizens or the people who were in that planning committee on the Meadows site wanted was an on-site school. That's the majority of people want.
Mhm.
And then when the bond was written, it was for an off-site school. So it didn't match that plan. I think that's what you're referring
I'm
to.
unsure if the bond was written for an offsite. I think it was written for onsite or alternate. It may have always ended up as the alternate, but it was an option to be built on site, and I think the community was led to believe that it might end up happening that. So I bring this up because whatever the community wants, if it's, if the best place is Ona where it exists, if it's going to change, at what point will we be notified, and then how will the community be involved in that process?
You'll know immediately. If it's going to change, we can't wait till we get that far down the road with the school. We have to know
But
exactly what we're doing first.
if it's going to change, it's going to change because it's going to be determined that the site at the current Ona Elementary is not appropriate.
It's cost
or-
prohibitive.
Yeah, it's cost prohibitive, or there's not the ability to build on that site. And I think that's, we can rehash that, but I think that was the Meadows issue, is that it was found that it was going to be cost prohibitive. We were going to have to acquire multiple homes on the site. Also, there was an issue with a floodway that went under
Right.
that site. So there are multiple issues that could determine that a site is not appropriate or cost prohibitive.
And keep in mind, the School Building Authority still has money in here, so they have skin in the game, and they will also help you make that determination. If they feel that you are going to spend too much money on the site, they will come back to you and say, you're going to spend another $2 million on site prep. It's on you, it's not on me. So that's typically the way it works.
Okay, thank you.
Any additional questions on that? Thank you, Dave, appreciate it. All right, now I'm going to go to actual policy updates, and I apologize for that error. I did not put them all on here. There is multiple policy updates that are in your binders that you have available. And again, this is just a second reading. This is not for approval. This is just required that we have it on this reading. And again, we can, are there any questions on those? It may take me a minute to go through multiple pages, but I will do my best to try to answer those.
Well, in the very first one, the corrections are so detailed, they even corrected when a comma was out of place. So as I read through these, and I didn't read every
Is
single.
this the evaluation of school leaders?
Yes.
Okay.
In that first sentence, they added a comma after growth and after staff. So if we're looking at these policies with that kind of attention to detail, I found in some cases the corrections were repetitious. They would put a correction one place and then put the same correction in the same policy, again, word for word, and many other errors I saw. So as voters to approve these policies, how specific are we to be on those kinds of errors?
So, as I stated in the last meeting, that Neola is one of the ones that have contracted out. They go through, that service is going through to look at those policies and everything. A lot of those, and I actually uploaded it in there, talk about, many of these things are technical changes. It could be a comma, it could be multiple different things, it could be a shall to a may, but some of those are just minor things that they do, that they have found and they have pointed out, and they push that out in mass changes on those things.
Okay.
On many of those policies.
But my question is, should we be pointing out errors that we see in this?
Absolutely. If you now, I will tell you, and a lot of times, this is like when I go in and I look at these. There's a process that you have to go through. There's like you've got one screen up, and then you go to another one, and then you can select an area, bring it over if that matches the policy, and then make those changes doing track changes. However, it is a little difficult when you see maybe I'm trying to get an E or an F, on the numbering and the lettering and stuff like that. It's it's very difficult and sometimes almost impossible to do that. So what happens on some of these very, very minute things that they have on there, if you see it and it's been a change and you're going to see in a green area or something and the spacing is off or the lettering is off, that is something when it goes to Neola, they actually have somebody that physically goes in and touches these policy and changes those things and actually publishes them on our board docs policies page. So they will go through and do that.
But is it Neola that put these changes in? That we're-
Yeah, the majority of them, until you get down to, most of these are Neola changes that have been changes that are either a technical change, an error that somebody had pointed out that they found, or you get down to the student discipline stuff, the Neola has not caught up with those. And again, the executive directors, Mr. Mann and Miss Scarberry, have made those changes there in order to be current with West Virginia code, because there is a time lapse. And I'll give you an example of that. The legislature passes something they pass something in April. It may take a while in the legislative offices of the Capitol to be able to actually change that code and then go back and change the West Virginia Board of Education policies, and it may be a 6-month lapse before it actually gets caught up with this. And there's a lot of policies there. And I'd like to say that I'm pretty efficient, and there's a lot of people that are pretty efficient here at the board office. But to keep up with every single one of those legislative changes is a full-time job in itself, and to be able to do that. So we do rely on them to be able to push out some of these changes to us.
Okay, so the errors that I saw are not commas. I'm not
Sure.
talking commas. But I'm just using that as a comparison. If they're being that detailed, I think the things that I saw should definitely be addressed. But, okay, the first one is 5331, and it's just a question I have there, where they're talking about naloxone training and stocking that. My question is, does every school have that?
Is Mr. Thomas? As far as him and Mike work with the nurses on this. And what this policy is really talking about is the, keeping the naloxone on site and everything. But I'm going to let him be able to answer that regarding the training with the nurses and stuff. What this does is allows them to be able to do that in certain trainings. And this is one of the recommendations that they pushed out.
So my question is, do they have that in every school,
Correct.
even elementary schools?
Yes.
Okay.
The nurses
Just my
do. And
question.
yep.
Oh, that's good to know. Thank you.
Do we have 1 boxes in each location too, or?
Yes, some have 2.
Some have to- Okay.
Okay, so 8402.
Thank you.
So I just have a question. It's not an error. I noticed that they marked out corporal punishment. So is that no longer allowed at all in our schools?
That is no. It is not.
Good
And again, they go through and pull technical changes on some of these things.
Okay, so on 8451, I didn't see anything marked.
This is actually a new policy.
Okay, all right. The next one, 8452.01.
Okay, this one is actually, this is a strike-through. It's to be able to pull this one, to be able to rescind this policy. However, this is meant, I just don't have it right off the top of my head. This is actually incorporated into another policy.
Yeah. Okay, and then in 5600,
Just be patient with me as I go through these policies. Yes, ma'am.
that first, I wanted to point out that it was added in the first paragraph, public schools should undertake proactive preventive approaches which integrate services such as a multi-tiered system of supports framework which promotes students' academic success, behavioral and mental health, including social and emotional needs, trauma sensitivity, bullying prevention, dropout prevention, and truancy reduction. That addition I thought was really beautiful.
Sure.
I wanted to point that out.
And I will tell you, like, when we were talking about PBIS, that is a multi-tiered systems of support.
yeah.
So that's one of those things.
I'm anxious to find out. Okay, then go to, these aren't numbered, but in that same policy, it's page 4. But if you start at page 3, this was really odd to me, the way, here's where we come into some errors that I noticed. So it's, okay, so on page 3, it says level 2 at the top.
Yes.
Okay, so they're listing behaviors that are potentially problematic behaviors, and then B is interventions listed
Yes.
after that. Okay, then go to level 3, which is at the very bottom, and these are more severe problematic behaviors. So then they start listing them. A, and this is supposed to be, it seems like to me, problematic behaviors. So there's A, B, and then all of a sudden, interventions are interjected, even though this is supposed to be, oh, and so they've deleted that. Notice they've deleted that. Okay, then D, E, and F are problematic behaviors. So then they deleted where interventions were inserted.
It's actually, if you look down at the very bottom, interventions and consequences for that, this is to make it align with policy 4373, the West Virginia Board of Education policy 4373 that was updated in July of this year. This listing those, so what, level 1 is the minimally disruptive,
Okay,
level 3.
Hold on just a minute.
Sure.
What I'm pointing out is they're supposed to be just listing all the problematic behaviors first.
Mm-hmm.
And then in the previous policy, they were sticking in interventions, so they pulled those out. But notice, and so it's supposed to be problematic behaviors until it gets down to N. And N, they've left in the intervention there. And then they list O, okay, that's problematic behavior. Then P, they changed it. We see an addition. Q, a problematic behavior. And all of a sudden, they've interjected an intervention. Then R is a problematic behavior. And then the interventions are listed. But, so I think there's a mistake that those are supposed to be removed. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yes, and it's probably me.
Oh.
I'll be honest with you. Yeah, I mean, this is a lot as far as the number of policies that go out.
Yes.
And it could be as easy as me not doing a strike through. I take full responsibility for that. And what it really goes down to, when you see the interventions and consequences down on level 3, and this is, again, why we're doing this policy update, and I appreciate you pointing those things out, because that's stuff that I can go back and make sure that I have resolved before next week.
Okay, so you and I can talk about this and not
Sure.
take all this.
But I still does, obviously, when it comes back in front of the Board of Education, I would still want anybody to be able to point anything out. And if you want to go to another reading, we can push it to another meeting, and then it can be for final approval on there. So that is, and I do appreciate you pointing those things out. But what it really does when it gets down, the interventions and consequences, there are multiple things. So for those level 3 things, it could be as little as an administrator, or student, or conference reprimand, all the way up to an expulsion. So that 1 through 19 that you see would then go back to all the interventions that could possibly be associated with a level 3 behavior.
I totally get that.
So that was, it was honestly, it was me.
So but there are other places, particularly in the like there's 3 different policies that we have here, where I saw a lot of kind of things like that. And you and I can meet.
Sure.
Again, yeah, I'm happy to do that instead of taking everybody's time. Yeah,
So, but thank you for pointing that out. I appreciate it.
you're so welcome.
Any other questions? Do have, as far as personnel changes, if you go ahead and look at your, agenda, if you go to page 16. Down at the bottom under S25008, Amy Westcott. Would you please remove that? They decided to have their name pulled from this. So that is S25008 Amy Westcott. That's a strike through on that. On page 16 at the bottom. Number, if you go down to, oh, go ahead.
So does that mean, is she in a position somewhere else, or was she?
She is actually at Huntington Middle School. She just opted not to accept she actually accepted it and then decided to change her mind prior to the board meeting.
Okay.
So she's going to stay at Huntington Middle School.
Okay, thank you.
Just, yeah, we're going to pull that one. And then if you look at the next page on number 17, EXBU 25003, Robert S. Manchester. We're going to pull that one as well, or a strike through on that.
Which one is that?
Is number 17, it's the second one down from the top, and that is Robert Manchester,
Okay.
EXBU 25003.
Okay.
So is that position now posted to fill?
It will go to another one, and then to the next employee, and then it won't necessarily need to be reposted, but it would be on the next agenda. It just didn't make this agenda to be able to offer it to that person because it was already published. And then down at, it says, on down to 5024S, Specialized Healthcare Procedures and Contracts, Service Personnel. There was going to be an end date for Amy Westcott, but where she is staying at Huntington Middle School, we're just going to take out the 8/20/24. You're just going to do a strike through on that. You're still going to have an effective date of 8/14/24, and that's because she is staying at Huntington Middle School. Board members, I appreciate your patience. I know I had a very, very long presentation tonight, but there was obviously a lot of big items on there, and I'll be happy to answer any other questions. If not, I will and make sure I don't have anything else on. That's it. Okay, thank you. Any other questions? Again, thanks for your patience. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Mr. Boggs. We'll move on to 2.04, communications from the superintendent.
Thank you, President Pauly. Board members, I will not be as long as Mr. Boggs. But I do want to share several things that have happened since our last meeting, our last regular board meeting. We had several open houses all across the district. We had scores of students and families that came out for those open houses this year. It's great to see everyone getting ready for the opening of schools. Thanks to the teachers and all the school staff and administrators for hosting those, and for all of the families that came out and partook. We had a great first day of school this year. Our 1st through 12th graders began August 14th. Kindergartners joined the next day on the 15th. And the only ones we have left to get back are our pre-K friends who will start this Thursday. We had summer school graduation last week. We added 23 students to the class of 2024. 20 of those were from Huntington High School, and 3 of those from Cabell Midland High School. We had Mount West President Dr. Josh Baker, who shared some inspirational words with our graduates. And in addition to that, we also celebrated recognition of Ms. Kim Varney, who received the WSAZ Golden Apple Award for her hard work and dedication to our students, helping those seniors get to the end. We had book distribution, which was a great day Friday. We spent an exciting day with the West Virginia Department of Arts, Culture, and History and the Cabell County Public Library during a book distribution at 8 of our local elementary schools. It was really neat to see how excited those kids were as they came and shared those books with the schools. We extend our gratitude to Cabinet Secretary Randall Reed Smith, Governor Justice, for providing the books to our schools. We'd also like to thank Brianna Bowen and the other library staff who attended and went through that distribution with us. And we expect to visit the remaining schools sometime next month. So it's kind of exciting. A little more somber note, we had a bomb threat this morning at Huntington High School. And the officials were made aware of a threat on a bathroom stall. We quickly crowded the students in. It was at the beginning of the day. We evacuated the building. Huntington Police Department, the West Virginia State Police investigated the threat with the assistance of their K-9 team, which were trained to detect explosives. The building was cleared. The threat was determined not to be credible. Students returned to the class on a normal schedule, so they went out. They reported the first period, exited the building, came back first period. They immediately released the third period. The day carried on as normal. It was a nice, calm day after that. But we do take threats like this very seriously, and anyone that's found responsible for making such threats will have to face appropriate consequences, because we take the safety of our students and our staff as the utmost priority. I'd like to extend my appreciation for the staff of Huntington High School, Mr. Cunningham, School Resource Officer Ernie Blackburn, the administrative team for their quick action, as well as the Huntington Police Department and the West Virginia State Police for responding immediately today. A couple of events I want to share with you. We have, of course, Thursday is the first day for pre-K students. And just a reminder that on September 2nd is Labor Day and our schools will be closed. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. I can report from, at least from my family, the open houses and first days of school were very good, went well. So,
I left here that evening and stopped at Huntington East Middle School first on the middle school night and could not find a parking place. And they were lined out the door, down the sidewalk, and down into the parking lot. So it was pretty neat. So it's great to see the turnout.
very good. All right, that takes us to 2.05 delegations to be heard. We have some delegations.
Yes, we have 10 tonight.
Okay, I will read from our agenda. The school board recognizes the value of public comment on educational, financial, administrative, or other issues related to the board's work. The board therefore provides a period for public participation at every meeting of the board and publishes rules to govern such participation in board meetings. Public comment is not an open forum to attack individual school system employees or board members. Each speaker is allowed 3 minutes to address the board. This is a business meeting of the school board. The board appreciates the public's input and will listen attentively, consider each comment, but will not respond, debate, or answer questions during comments on agenda items or during public comments section. When you are called to come forward, please state your name, your address, and any group affiliation, if that's appropriate, for the record.
All right, at first we have Jerry Lake.
Ms. Raines was my secretary a couple of times at Huntington High and also here. My name's Leo G. Jerry Lake, and I live at 694 Coon Street, Barbersville, West Virginia. And I'm a retired Cabell County school administrator. I was a teacher before that and worked here 30-plus years. And I'm here tonight. Now you can start it there, Betty. Hit it. All right. Tonight, I'm here to speak on behalf of a young man that's on your agenda tonight, Dan Miles. And just want you to know that Dan Miles worked for me for a number of years at Barbersville Middle School. I've worked side by side with him on technology projects. He's an excellent teacher. He's an excellent communicator. And I do know he loves kids. Unfortunately, like many of us, we've had CPS reports filed against us. I've had a couple as a principal. And what used to happen before the past administration, what used to happen, CPS was called. They did an investigation. If you were cleared of any wrongdoing, you went back to work. Or really, you didn't even leave work. You just stayed there until the investigation was over. And so I had 2 of those in my illustrious career, was cleared on both counts and never missed a day's work. Unfortunately, under the past regime, one thing that the former superintendent did very well was intimidate people and try to get rid of them. And so Mr. Miles had the unfortunate situation of being accused of some wrongdoing with a student. And CPS cleared him. But that wasn't good enough for the current administration. They wanted to push it further. And I suppose Mr. Miles' biggest sin was not drinking the Kool-Aid. And he was, actually his career has been ruined. Not for anything he did, because he was clear to that, but because the previous administration wanted to push this farther, have a head on a platter, which they were very good at. And I hope, Mr. Hardesty, that you've changed your ways and things will be different under you. But as far as I'm concerned, when Bill Smith left the building, when he retired, civility left the building with him. And things just aren't handled correctly. And I would encourage you board members, when these complaints come forward, to look at it compassionately, look at it and is this guy really a danger to society? Dan Miles was one of the best teachers I ever had working for me. I hired him, would hire him again. And but because of the aggressive prosecution of the former Board of Education, his career is ruined. It says he's resigning tonight for personal reasons. Yeah, it's personal. Thank you.
Monty Fowler.
Monty Fowler, 625 South Terrace in Huntington. I'm speaking tonight on behalf of the renamed Yes Parks, Yes Libraries, Yes Levies group. First, everybody in the room, we have T-shirts. If you would like one, I will be here until the end of the meeting. They were provided by a generous sponsor, and they are really nice billboards. I plan to wear mine until November and then probably wash it. No, I'm kidding. It's been washed. But our group met last night, and as we have said in the past, but it's more or less official now, we're going full speed ahead. Everything's going to be hanging out there. We are going to try, if we can raise as much money as we did the last time, to do everything we did to defeat the levy in May to pass it in November. We're going to do digital advertising. We are going to buy radio ads. We're hoping that Judy Rule will reprise her role and, forgot something. Somewhere here, I have our yes stick. Yep, here we go. We have our yes stickers that are going to turn our no signs into yes. We've already raised enough money to print several hundred of those. We're going to start distributing them and roll out those signs in probably October, because there's state law. You can't put campaign signs out 45 days ahead, something like that. So starting in October, you're going to see our signs happily slightly modified. And I would just like to ask the school board to do the same thing that you did back in May with, a few deletions. I would encourage you to not abuse the phone bank like was done in the past, because that made a lot of people really mad, and we want them happy so they'll vote for it. But I would like to see the school board go forward with the same vigor that they did in May. And I think we'll have a lot of happy success in November. Thank you.
Mike Sullivan.
Mike Sullivan, 5506 Shawnee Drive, West Pea Ridge, taxpayer. Just like to also agree with Monty that I said the last time I came to a meeting after things changed that I would work very hard to help pass this levy, just like I'll work very hard to defeat it in May. I've got all my signs with yes on them already. I changed them today. They're sitting in my garage ready to place. But we heard at the meeting last night that probably the teachers' unions will get out and really go forth and push to pass the levy. I'd just like to say, I agree with Monty that we hope that you all can do what you can do on your end, and we're going to work hard on our end.
Debbie Forth.
Hello, I'm Debbie Forth. I live at 6384 Little 7 Mile in Huntington. I'm here tonight to speak on behalf of Daniel Miles, who has to render his resignation tonight. I want to speak to his impeccable character as a teacher. I have volunteered in a school where Dan was teaching. I've watched him interact with a lot of the students. He treated them with respect. He never in any way acted to harm any child that was near him. He's an outstanding educator who was friendly and wanted the best for all of his students. He was a trustworthy and kind person, and I am saddened by all the happenings that have come to be in the case against him. Cabell County has lost a very valuable, outstanding employee. Thank you.
Dan Miles.
If I could ask you, maybe get more than 3 minutes. If I can't, that's fine. What I would like to request is that my item 5038-P on tonight's agenda be considered separately from the other personnel items.
I move that we extend the period of comment for Mr. Miles to the maximum of 5 minutes so he can express his concerns, please.
Second.
It's with deep sadness that I have to stand here today and force my resignation from my teaching job. I put 22 years in this county as a teacher, as a coach, and I've done that with impeccably integrity, honesty, responsibility, dignity, compassion, motivation, and patience, as well as caring. I've always treated my students with respect, and I always say that I love them. And that is a problem. You're not allowed to do that. That being said, I still love my students. I will always say I love my students. Why? Because I do. I will hug them, but I do not initiate the hugs. The students come to me to initiate a hug. I'm being forced to give up my job and my career, which I have dreamed and fought for since middle school. I've had teachers tell me from my own high school that I shouldn't go to college because I'm not smart enough. If that's how teachers are today, I'm glad that at least I taught my students they can always fight and become better people by not giving up and just following their dreams. I would like for the board to have an investigation into my issues for this personal problem or my resignation, because I believe it is that the public needs to know, as well as all the other teachers, as well as administrators and all you board members need to know that the way things were brought to attention and the way things worked, that some of the things were not followed properly. The investigations were not done properly, and I believe that as a board, you need to look into how this investigation was brought upon or how it was made to look. That's what I would really like to ask. I would also like to ask from the board members, because I work for you. I do not work for the administration. You are my boss. They are my supervisors. I would like for you to allow my back pay for the 2 years. And I understand that there was issues with some policies and procedures that may have said, well, you can't really do that. Well, you are the board members. It is up to you, because I work for you. Someone can't say, well, no, we don't do that. That's for you to decide. And if your decision is, no, we're not doing that, that is your responsibility, and that's okay with me. But I'm just asking you, because of the non-investigations or the process of which things did not happen correctly, I'm asking you to give me some back pay from the last 2 to 3 years. I have a lot more to say. I really can't do it right now. Maybe another time, if you would like to ask any questions, I'm always here to answer any questions that you may have. I will refer any policy or procedural questions to my wife, Sarah Miles, who's my power of attorney in this matter. I'm willing to discuss this in the open. I'm willing to discuss this in a executive session without the administrators and other people present that are caused this issue. And that's all I have today. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Sarah Miles.
Hi, I'm Sarah Miles. I am Dan's wife. I'm sure I can't do this in 3 minutes either, but I'll do my best. I can't imagine that any one of you sitting up there would expect, much less tolerate, the treatment that my husband has endured for the past 3 years. The level of injustice I would call incomprehensible, but we've been put through it. And the fact that it has been allowed to progress and persist to this point should be shameful. Mr. Miles has done nothing to deserve being in this current situation. The disregard of critical policies and procedures left our own 2 children subjected to years of a hostile educational environment. An environment created by the mishandling and utter lack of confidentiality in sensitive employment matters, subjecting them to the persistent and offensive rumor mill that was perpetuated unchecked throughout the school district and community by students, parents, and teachers alike. Their high school experience was destroyed by the reckless mishandling of something that actually never happened. When your administration not only ignored but chose to decline their assigned duty to investigate and implement the very rules, regulations, and policies and procedures that direct how such matters must be handled. The emotional impact of the last 3 years has been nothing short of devastating. Our own kids have had to deal with chronic anxiety about going to school and being subjected to the swirling rumor mill. And you haven't experienced the extent to which such false accusations can cause severe depression until you have listened to your own child, and she's sitting right here, say that they didn't want to be around anymore as the day-to-day anxiety became uncontrollable. And believe me, we made use of Prestera's services. These policy violations and ignorance of federal civil law statutes, particularly Title IX, don't impact just employees. They will impact students as well. The errors that have been written into these critical board policies, and I'm speaking about Policy 3362, and there's other related policies in different sections as well, undermine the whole purpose of the policy and subject this board to considerable liability. Your administration is critically lacking in training, and this is wholly evident by their ignorance of the application of Title IX regulations to incidents which may constitute sexual harassment in the educational program. It is evident that the administrators who are tasked with being the county Title IX coordinators have no understanding or knowledge of what is defined as sexual harassment under Title IX. They routinely misapply Policy 3362, which is written to include Title IX sexual harassment. And if they do presume to know, then they are choosing not to apply the appropriate policies and procedures intentionally. This simply can't continue. Their bias and prejudice drives their actions. which is not just unacceptable, but unallowable under the definition of a Title IX coordinator. I truly believe that you, the board members, are none the wiser as to the true level of policy violations, misfeasance, misconduct, retaliation, neglect of duty, and malice in which your highest administrators have conducted themselves in handling this employment matter. The lengths to which they have gone to assure the assassination of Dan's character and railroad him out of a job is beyond comprehension. There was never any truth or reliability to any rumor or complaint, and any such rumors were entirely unfounded and unsubstantiated. The only accusations of wrongdoing were contrived by your administrators, not students, not parents, not coworkers, not building administrators, all which would have been proven, could have been proven had the required investigations ever taken place. The breach of trust and confidence that continuously happens between employees in this administration is prolific, but the retaliatory nature of their dealings with their employees prevents them from voicing their concerns, so I'm voicing them for them. And believe me, this is just the tip of the iceberg. We would genuinely like the opportunity to sit down with this board and demonstrate the extent to which your board policies have been miswritten, misapplied, or ignored, and their applications fatally flawed by choice or ignorance. This board can no longer afford to function with the wool pulled over its eyes, and for your highest administrators to be unaccountable for their actions and incompetencies. Thank you.
Melissa Christus.
Hi, I'm Melissa Christus. I live at 1 Mayapple Heights in Barboursville, West Virginia. And I'm sorry, I'm a horrible public speaker, so my husband got all that. I'm here on behalf of Dan Miles and his family, and I have nothing prepared other than just the feelings we have towards Dan and his family. We met them roughly 12 years ago, had the privilege to be a volunteer coach in the Youth Little League, and I coached his daughter, Allie. As you know, being a volunteer, there's lots of time, lots of missed time with your family. Even though it's great, you meet wonderful families, develop those relationships, it's a lot. And I can say that year that we had the best group of parents, which included the Miles family. Dan and Sarah were certainly the ones that jumped into spearhead to make sure that I could be home at nighttime instead of doing all the field duties. They were kind of like our little core group there. We'd maintained that relationship for several years and then had the privilege to have Dan as not just a teacher, but as a coach himself. My daughter played volleyball for Dan in Barboursville Middle School. He's a pretty darn good coach. He did more than just give them the basics, the fundamentals. After a rough year, the year prior, there was a tough group of girls being teenagers. He stepped in and he did a phenomenal job. Again, not only did he teach him the basics, the fundamentals, he was caring, he was loving. He had to referee teenage girls as they bickered and fought. And he did that with so much grace, integrity, and love. I hate what's going on as I sit and listen to Allie cry and what they're going through. So I hope and pray that you grant them the honor of what they're asking as far as, listening to everything again with new eyes. It's definitely a loss for middle school children and for our community. And I just, again, hope that you grant them what they need and hear things again for them. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Bentley Christus.
Hi, my name is Bentley Christus. I live at 1 Mayapple Heights in Barboursville. Just to piggyback off my mom, I'm not the greatest public speaker either, but it really does break my heart that such a good, respectable, loving man who was a great coach and a great teacher, that his family has to go through this and all the emotional damage that this has caused. And Allie and I are the same age, and it really does suck to know that her high school experience was terrible due to what their family has gone through. Like I said, he was a great coach. He did love us. He did. He was never inappropriate with us. He was always very respectful. We love that family to death. We really do. And I agree. I think that you give them what they're asking and just hear them out, you know? But thank you.
Stephanie Plumley.
My name is Stephanie Plumley. I live at 110 Berry Lane in Barbersville. I've been a mental health therapist for over 25 years. 20 years of that, I specialized in sexual trauma. I worked with adolescents and adults. I worked with victims as well as perpetrators, offenders. There is a lot of red flag behaviors that you can identify and look for if we know what to watch for. And as a mother, I watched every person who had any contact with my child like they were under a microscope. There is only a handful of homes that my children were allowed in. There was only a handful of homes they stayed all night in. And my youngest son stayed all night at the Miles home. He's been in the home since he was in 3rd grade. He's a senior this year, so we've known them for a long time. Dan was a teacher, a coach for Bradley, as well as a family friend. I watched him at track meets. I watch anybody like a hawk who's around my child. I never witnessed any red flag behaviors or concern from Dan. He is an amazing coach, an amazing teacher. He went above and beyond, and as a therapist, I can say that made him a target also. When people struggle with sexual abuse and false allegations, they pick someone they feel safe with because the person who has hurt them they're scared to say about. So they want to say this thing, so they pick someone safe. And Dan's charisma, his bigger-than-life personality, sadly also made him a target for children who are struggling and desperately seeking answers. Just like the bomb threat was made this morning, we have to take that serious. But we have to think about it with facts as well. When the police came in and cleared Huntington High, the kids went back to school. We didn't shut down the building and build a new school. I asked that if this was you or a family member, that you would look at that with new eyes. DHHR cleared him. This was not substantiated. That's what they do. So please take a look at this information. I'm open to come in and talk to any of you at any time because 3 minutes is not enough time to say all the things that need to be said for this family. Thank you.
Bradley Zenteno.
My name is Bradley Zenteno. I live at 110 Berry Lane. I'm a senior in high school, and I attend Cabell Midland. I've known Dan since I was in 3rd grade. I've met his son when I was in 3rd grade. Like my mother said, I've spent the night at his house with my friend. We've had many friends over for whatever. It was sleepovers or just hanging out. I've always felt safe around Dan. I've always felt trustworthy of Dana. And I've always had a good time and have felt safe and comfortable around Dan. Dan has not only been a father to my friend and a friend to me, but he's also been a teacher to me and a track coach to me as I attained Barbersville Middle School. And I did track and field in Barbersville Middle School, and he was one of my coaches there, and he was the best coach I could have asked for, and he helped me with whatever I asked for. Whatever I needed, he helped me, and I would never suspect any red flags or anything from him. And I'm here to say whatever you whatever he has to say and whatever he's asking for, that she can please look into it and help his situation. Thank you.
President Polly, that concludes delegations.
Okay, thank you. All right. That takes us to 3.01 board member comments. Do we have any board member comments at this time?
So, Mr. Hardesty, I've got to commend you today on sending the message out for the bomb threat, keeping us updated about our student safety. I would extend that same concept to our students' safety with their bodies as well. So I assume that if something would occur at any of our school locations and somebody's safety was in danger, that you'd update us in that same fashion? Or no?
Well, it would depend on if it was a violation of any kind of a code. So I would seek legal counsel, but and part of the reason is because if it deals with an employee that may appear before you at some point, you can't have any previous issues or preconceived notions. Yeah.
So that's why I know nothing about this? Because we're not allowed to until it's voted on, or?
You will have the opportunity to go into executive session during personnel
Right, on item
section.
A at each meeting, right?
Huh?
No, she's saying for this particular.
For this, for any personnel
For
issue.
any personnel, but.
You can go into executive session and discuss it.
Okay, I move we go into executive session.
Well, we're not in
Not
the
there yet.
personnel issue. personnel
Okay,
section
well
yet.
then I'm just gonna throw out some comments because I do find it super alarming
Well, be
that I.
careful what you say, because we can't discuss personnel issues in public. That's why personnel issues are handled in executive session. If you still feel the need to make those comments after you've gone into executive session, there's a board member comment section at the end as well.
Yeah.
And maybe you can evaluate whether or not you believe that will be something you need to say in public after hearing and discussing any questions you have back there.
So if nobody had come and spoke tonight, then I wouldn't know that that item had any legal issue regarding it. So I wouldn't have then been able to elect to go into executive session. So I'm just curious, like, how are we informed about that?
If someone has a disciplinary action on the board agenda, that's listed on the board agenda with a disciplinary action. If someone has some other leave, resignation, something else, that's not listed, and you don't have a separate hearing for that. I'm trying to speak as delicately as I can because we're in public right now.
Yeah, it sounds like we have to speak delicately, which feels really awkward.
Well, that's the law, because personal
understand.
issues,
I don't
we
wanna
want to
break the law
protect
by any
people's
means.
privacies, and we want to make sure things are followed fairly and in order. So.
Well, I do want to thank everybody in attendance for coming tonight. It matters to us greatly when people show up and speak their minds and express their concerns so we can better serve you all. That's what we're here for. We're to listen and to help. And I want to thank the group in the community that's going to go out and campaign on behalf of our levy in November. We know a lot of work went into voting no on it in May, and a lot of work's going to be required to get it passed in November. So we want to thank those people involved in getting it passed. That's all for now.
Okay. Any other comments at this time? Ma'am, you've had your chance. I'm sorry. All right, let's go to 3.02 workshop requests. Any workshop requests at this time? We'll obviously continue with our board docs. Okay, if nothing else, we'll go to section 4 of the consent agenda. We have several items listed on the consent agenda. And as always, we can move to 4.12, approval of the consent agenda, or if there's something that any member would like to pull, consider separately, then we can do that as well. So I can take a motion for 4.12, or I can ask, I can have someone.
Can we just vote on 4.02 separately, the policy update, and then all of them, the rest of them grouped together?
Sure. Okay, so I need a motion to accept 4.02, the policy update, second reading.
So moved.
Okay, Ms. Neely makes the motion.
I'll second.
And Ms. Smalley second. Oh, I'm sorry.
I got you.
4.02. and Ms. Neely made the motion, and Ms. Smalley seconded.
Is there discussion?
There can be.
I will approve it, the second reading, as long as I can meet with Justin.
Oh, absolutely.
What I've
Yeah,
never
yeah, and obviously, we're not approving the policy update yet, it's just we're approving that as a second reading of it. That was on our agenda. So, okay, so we have the motion and the second. All in favor of approving 4.02, policy update, second reading, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
I'm going to abstain from the vote.
Okay. Abstain. And for in favor. I'll say that. Not say 4-4. All right, so that takes us to the rest of the consent agenda. For approval, I would just need a motion for approving the remainder of the consent agenda minus 4.02.
What all does that include?
So that we have the board meeting minutes, approval for our School to Work Powerful Partners, approval for the architect selections, approval for the Charleston Filter Service contract, the contract with Prestera for mental health services, the purchase of diesel fuel, the lingual care speech contract. There were 2 out-of-county transfer requests for approval, and there was one, I think, out of county for denial, and that will be it.
Okay, so it's all just number 4?
Yeah, everything in section 4 minus 4.02 is what will be on the table right now.
Okay, I just want to pull out minutes because I have a slight correction.
Okay, so you want me to do that one separately?
Mhm.
Okay, so let's go, we're doing 4.01, the board meeting minutes. And do you want to say something on that correction, or do you just want to vote and?
I can do something, yeah, I can just make a slight change on that.
Okay.
It is where let me pull the minutes real fast. I've already spoken to Carolyn about it. It is where I brought up the mission statement of Crossroads Academy. And so at the last meeting, I said that I wanted to read the mission statement of Crossroads Academy because it pointed out that we need to provide services for those students, not send them at home on a computer. And I was so pleased that Superintendent Hardesty changed that, and I do. And so I had inadvertently not brought the mission statement with me to that meeting, and I tried to,
Yeah, remember that?
I tried to say what it was. It was so poorly done. I do want to read the mission statement of Crossroads Academy now. And it says, Crossroads Academy exists to provide a transition period of individualized emotional, social, academic, and behavioral supports that affords students the opportunities to acquire the skills necessary to succeed in the traditional school environments. So whoever created that did a fine job. And I hope that we continue providing those supports for those students.
Okay, and you've spoken with Carolyn about that already, you said so. So we'll, do you still want to vote on that separate, or?
We still can, we don't
Just
have to.
go. Okay, so I need a motion to approve the consent agenda, the entire consent agenda minus 4.02.
I'll make the motion.
Okay, Ms. Smalley has made the motion to do so,
Second.
and Ms. Neely has seconded. So the motion is for approval of the consent agenda for all items except 4.02. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion passes. That takes us to section 5, the financial section, and we have a treasurer's report and the vouchers payable for July of '24. Mr. Rotkin.
Thank you, Mr. Polly. So just 2 items on the agenda this evening for the financial part. We've got the July Treasurers Report and the July vouchers payable. As far as the report this evening, the report itself, there's a lot of blanks. There's a lot of zeros. You'll see dashes actually on the report. That's because the month of July, there's really not a whole lot of activity. We are paying bills, but they're really bills that belong in the old year. And so there were only 3 funds that actually reported any expenditures during the month of July, because the bills that we had been paying, they're really liabilities from June. And that's what we typically see from year to year. The budget page actually shows in the current budget a $0 balance for 3 of the funds, and that's because our carryover is still being calculated. Even today, we're in the middle of August now, we're still calculating what the carryover balances will be. It's my hope that the August report that you'll receive next month may have those balances in there. I'm hopeful, even cautiously optimistic that that will be reflective in the report for the month of August. And also, just this time of year, we don't have all of because we're still filling positions, and payroll lags a couple of weeks. We don't have all of those salaries encumbered on the budget report as well. So it's my hope that the August report will be a little more reflective of what we're looking at for the upcoming year. I did want to provide you all with an update on the CDs. At the last meeting, I mentioned to you that we were going to go shopping and see what was out there, and I think the results were very, very good. So I wanted to share with you all that we did receive, I think about 7 banks responded, so we got a lot of competition. There's a lot of interest out there with our banks here in Cabell County. But the 2 banks that kind of rose to the top with their proposals was on a 1-year CD. Putnam County Bank offered 4.95% on a 1-year CD, which was an outstanding bid. And Westbanco also provided a very strong proposal in several of them. So I'm considering and kind of asking, not necessarily for a vote, but just any feedback of purchasing some CDs from Putnam County Bank for a 1 year, but also a 6-month CD from Westbanco. That's at 5.25%, and a 1-year CD with Westbanco at 4.75%. Our current account at the State Treasurer's Office is, as of today, still earning slightly better than that rate, but the Federal Reserve is expected to drop rates next month. I want to say it's September 10th, I think. And it could be anywhere from 1/4 point to 1/2 point. The expectation is that's going to be a precipitous drop over time. And so while we might lose a little bit of interest in the short term for the first 30 days or so, over the long haul, we're going to come out quite a bit better. Based on where we think rates are going, I just did some calculations. By doing this, that should preserve about an additional $117,000 in revenue this year for the district. So just wanted to be transparent with you all, let you know how those bids did come in. And if there's no concerns, I would like to move forward this week on those proposals.
Just a question, how big are the certificates?
So, looking at where we're at, because we still have some bond funds that we're not going to loop in, but we've got some bond funds that are helping us with our cash position right now. I'm looking at tentatively a $15 million 6-month CD at Westbanco, $20 million at Putnam County Bank, and another $15 on the 1-year CD at Westbanco. Based on where our cash balance is today, we usually get our fall taxes next month, and the next 2 months are usually pretty good checks from the sheriff's office. I do anticipate a little bit of a dip in our balance in February. We usually do see that's where things tail off before the spring taxes come in. So I'm not comfortable putting it all in a 1 year, but I think what we could do is put 15 in a 6-month, And that way, we know we're in good shape, when we do hit that dip in February.
Drew, what was the 1 year at West Banco? How much?
The quote on that was 4.75%.
And how much did you say?
15 million.
15 in each for West Banco?
Yes, 15 for the 2 West Bancos, yes. So that was my update on the CDs, unless there's any questions.
I just want to thank you. These are good rates. You do such a good job. So thank you for your work on that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Do you all have any other questions for me this evening?
Yeah, I've got a bunch of questions. And are we on 5.01?
Yeah, he's for the whole thing.
Anything on the financial section?
Yeah, as some of you guys may know, I've had a phone situation for like 2 weeks now, and I'm locked out of emails, so I'm a bit behind. But I haven't had time to get over these voucher numbers to Drew so he could pull them. So I've got, I don't know, probably about 15 vouchers that I'd like to figure out what they're for. Total's about $1 million, so.
Mr. Byers, I'll be happy to try to answer as many questions as I'm able to. I don't have, as you and I spoke a little bit ago, I don't have copies of the invoices prepared since we are kind of shooting from the hip a little bit this evening. But I feel like, we can probably get at least some general information. If there's something really specific, I may have to go pull them or make them available to you, tomorrow, depending on the question you have.
Thank you. We'll start with 130713.
Okay, so that to Desi Kernan, is that the question? Yeah. Okay, so that is, and I've got a report out of Weavis I ran while I was just sitting here a little bit ago. That's actually a replacement check. I think it was lost in the mail. I believe, if I remember correctly, that is a tuition reimbursement check that we had issued, I think, in early June. The State Department, first of all, we have teachers that are taking classes to get additional certifications. And if they meet certain criteria, they can apply to the Department of Education for reimbursement of those tuition costs. So what they do is, rather than write a check directly to the teacher, they tell us to write a check to the teacher, so it's not taxed. If we do it, it's tax-free. If the state does it, they have to report that as taxable income. So they have us write the check, and then they send us a grant to reimburse us for those costs. So I feel very confident that's what that is. I don't have all the details in front of me, but I think that's what that is.
Excellent, thank you. 130776.
776. 1 Corin 310. So that's also it's also another replacement check. I think we had several in early July where checks got lost in the mail. 1 Corin 310. I believe they were the contractor at Height Saunders, weren't they? So that would have been for 1 month's worth of services where they were doing the renovations at Height Saunders.
Okay, thank you. 130815. It's Kev Group for $27,000.
Just getting to the page. So Kev Group, that is the company that provides computer software to our schools for their accounting software. So in the board office has Green Screen Weavis. It's a program that was developed in the 1980s by IBM. We still use it today. My son is in kindergarten, and every time he sees it on my computer, he says, "I'm hacking." He likes to play Minecraft, so I must be hacking. It does look like something out of the Matrix, but we use Weavis here at the board office. That's the system the state requires us to use. At the school level, our schools have their own bank accounts, and so they have, like for fundraising or we haven't really talked about faculty senate funds, but there's money that the teachers get from the state to purchase supplies. But our schools have their own bank accounts. And so the way that they're able to keep track of their different pots of money is with this software. And so Kev is the name of the company that provides that software to our schools. I believe 54 out of the 55 counties use Kev.
Is this a 1-year subscription cost?
Yes, sir. So this would have been the FY25 renewal.
That seems reasonable. Thank you. Next one's 130827.
N2Y, I believe that is some software that our special ed department uses. And I'm
Suzanne.
N2Y, that is the software, is that for our autism classrooms? Low incidence classrooms, there's some software that I think the students use. I think it's with their devices, correct? It's with their devices. She would probably have to come up if you have more specific questions than that.
Yeah, I mean, I just want to zoom out on that, and it's actually a bit more expensive than the one we have for our general schools, and I'm not sure how many students we have in our special education programs, and obviously they're just as much a priority as all of our students. So I'm just curious, how essential is this? What does it provide? Is that the best price for what we're getting?
I will have to step aside momentarily. So, Ms. Stevens.
I too am new to unique learning for the students with low incidence. We buy so many of those licenses with the unique learning, and we have, I think it was 25 that we purchased with that this year. And our teachers use that in those classrooms. It kind of follows our CSOs for students. It just provides a different platform for them to go on. I can provide you more information in regards to that, and I can do that at a later time. I don't have that with me this evening.
Yeah, I want you and our students to have what we need, and I want to make sure that we're not spending any more on it than we have to. That's the reason for the question.
Sure,
So, thank
sure.
you.
But I'll provide you more information.
Please, yeah, I'd love to learn more.
Okay.
Excuse me. Mr. Rotkin, it's going to be 130833 Republic Services.
That's probably our garbage bills.
I think I asked last time. That's fine.
Yeah, this is, seeing that, that would be right about the amount for probably our June garbage bill.
Okay. And then 130836, it's scenario learning.
I don't remember if that's Jason or Kelly. Scenario learning, do you know that one? That one, I'm going to have to look that one up. I'm not real familiar with exactly what that one is.
Well, if she's plugging through it, we'll come back to it. The next one's of real interest. It's 130854. It's almost $20,000 to the Supreme Court of Appeals.
That one I do know what that is. Okay, so we have, and this would be if you need additional information. I don't know if Mr. Thomas, yeah, he is still back there. We actually have at our disposal a probation officer that serves our schools. And that probation officer, kind of like what he talked about earlier this evening, where Prestera has a teacher and we pay Prestera, same thing here. We have a probation officer that serves in our schools, but they're actually employed by the West Virginia Supreme Court of Appeals. And so that position, we pay the Supreme Court of Appeals, and we actually receive a grant that helps pay for that each year. I don't think it pays the cost in its entirety, but 2/3 or so of the cost is paid by that grant.
Mr. Rockin, I think the Supreme Court of Appeals, they pay for all probation officers. They're also over the court, the family court systems and things like that. So it's not like, I want to clarify, they're paying all the probation officers. So just to make sure.
Thank you.
Yeah. So that's what that is. That's us paying our contribution to the Supreme Court of Appeals.
Good to know. I think Kelly's got an answer on this scenario learning.
Scenario, which we know also as vector learning, which is our safe school video platform for all of our mandated policy that's required by state, like bloodborne pathogens, mandatory reporting. Yeah. I know, I'm like drawing a blank. I just.
So it's where we get our video trainings from?
Two-day video training for all employees.
All right.
Yeah.
All right, 130967, it's Harris School Solutions.
That's our e-walk, that's our walkthrough platform that all of our principals use when they observe the classrooms.
All right, thank you. And then 130995, capital business equipment, $440,000.
I believe that check was the furniture for the new Davis.
Davis Creek, yes.
Yeah. Oh, and Mr. Boggs wanted to point out it was bid out. I think the board, it's over 100,000, so the board had approved that. Obviously, it was last year's board, but that was the check for the furniture that was delivered to the new Davis Creek.
Thank you. And then 131001, it's 329,000 to Curriculum Associates.
That's iReady, right?
Well, it's all of our professional development for our iReady math and our diagnostics that we use in K-8. So every school gets additional professional development support throughout the school year.
So would Title I funds qualify for that purchase as well if they wanted to?
So we can blend funds if it's used out of Title I or Title II. If we have designated that for that, and I believe.
That's my question. Is it the same type of professional development we voted on the last meeting?
No,
Okay.
that's more like school improvement support. This is actually aligned with our curriculum. And they go in the teachers' classrooms and they offer support in our elementary math as well as with all of our diagnostics that we do 4 times a year.
How are the teachers liking the iReady program?
Oh, well, they voted, and that's what they presented.
This is what they want?
That's what
This
they
is what
wanted.
the teachers want? All right, the teachers got it.
That's what they chose, and they always recommend the added support.
Okay. Thank you, Kelly. All right, 131002, it's Daktronics for 138,000.
I believe that was the scoreboard at Huntington High School.
Did we fund that completely, or was it subsidized with other grants?
So I believe the vast majority of that came from the general fund. I think the school also provided some funds out of their athletic department, I believe. The breakdown, I'd have to look that up. I don't have it memorized, but I actually think it was on a board agenda maybe back in May or June, and I think the breakdown was on it. But I can certainly look that up if you need it.
Thank you. And 131051, it's AG Ready for 43,000.
You know, that's the fencing, I think, right? Okay. That is another one of our summer maintenance projects. AG Ready was the winning bidder of the various fencing projects throughout the county. So I think we did Davis Creek, Spring Hill, was Culloden, Milton Middle, and Culloden.
What a fence.
Was Salt Rock on there? Or that may have been a different one? That was a different one, okay. So several schools got fencing put in over the summer.
Okay, thank you. 131063, it's Casto Technical Services for 45,000.
Did you say 131063?
063, yes, sir.
I'm just trying to catch you up, I'm sorry. I know they were working on an HVAC project. You do think this? Okay, go ahead.
I do not have my notes in front of me. I do believe that that is an HVAC project in the band room at Cabell Midland High School.
Okay. Just trying to identify all of these items so I'll know that they're like general services contract or trash or whatever in the future.
Yeah, I think that's a project that, actually, I think they had booked maybe the year before, and because of parts, it just didn't.
Pushed back, and it really had to wait until school was out.
Yeah. That's what I thought that was, but I wasn't positive.
All right, thank you. And the next one's 131120, and it's for Prestera in the amount of 24,000. And this is one I alluded to earlier. There's another voucher somewhere. I'm going to go ahead and give you the number. Maybe.
The one specifically that you just stated, that is a replacement check. That looks like that's probably a check that was written in June originally, because it just says replace and it's got the check number. That is likely related to last year's version of the contract that Mr. Thomas spoke of
Could it be 2
earlier.
months worth of the, that's what it looks like.
Yeah, probably. Without having the invoice, it's hard for me to say for sure, but based on the dollar amount, that is what it looks like. Perhaps it's 2 months, yeah.
It'd be good to get that one to me afterwards, just to make sure, because I'm just curious if they're providing services outside of the scope of the contract, which is fine.
I believe it's just the two contracts, but I will definitely write that down.
And then 130832, it's another from Prestera, but it's 16,000, so it's a bit different than the monthly payment amount in the contract.
Yeah, like I said, I'll probably, without having the invoices, because there are two contracts, one was interchange and one is that school-based service that Mr. Thomas mentioned. I'd have to actually pull the invoices. I apologize.
That's okay. Didn't give you any notice. It's my fault. 130850, it's 7,000 to West Virginia Adjutant General.
Okay, that is the Mountaineer Challenge Academy. So this is something that the state headed up. It's probably getting close to 10 years ago now. I'd say probably 8 to 10 years ago is when this started. That for certain students, we usually have a handful every year at both high schools. That if it's a good fit, they can attend the Mountaineer Challenge Academy. There's one in Preston County, and there's also one at, I believe it's in Montgomery. So there's a north campus and a south campus. And it allows them to go for, I believe, a semester or roughly a semester. And then they, at the completion of the program, they graduate with a high school diploma. I think I said that right. It is a GED? Okay, or a high school equivalency, I'll say that at least. But they graduate with some credentials, and part of what the state has mandated is if the student goes and they do complete the program, we have to pay for that student. We remit most of the state aid. I want to say it's like 90% of the state aid for that student. So, we do get the credit as the student's graduating. I think that helps. It's my understanding it helps our graduation rate, but we do have to remit a payment to the National Guard. So the West Virginia Adjutant General, that's the National Guard. So it's for those students that actually complete that program.
So any student in Cabell County who qualifies or is recommended is able to go at no cost to them?
That's probably a question for Mr. Thomas. I hate to put him on the spot, but that would be an attendance office question.
It's a great program. It helps a lot of students. So.
No, it's okay. It's not for any student. It's they have to be 17 years old and up. But yeah, if we recommend them, they have space and they meet the criteria, they will take them.
They don't have to pay anything.
No, they don't have to pay anything.
We only have to pay if they graduate.
Correct. Yeah, and they've been very helpful. They actually come here and train our staff on their program and talk to our kids often. Great program.
Yeah.
Well worth the money.
Absolutely. Just one more and we'll be done. 131065, it's 7,000 to CEV Multimedia.
Can you repeat that number? I'm sorry.
131065.
CEV Multimedia. That is another one I'm going to have a moment to look up. That one, I'm not familiar with that vendor name.
Thank you.
If you want to provide that. I think Mr. Boggs has a little bit more information on one of the previous items. I'll try to look that up real quick while he's giving you an update.
Educational supply store.
Just Google it.
So back on March 19th of 2024, the board had approved $120,000 for Daktronics for the scoreboard at Huntington High School, and the school paid $18,028 towards that for a total of $138,028. And then there was an additional $6,800 that was incurred by Huntington High School, and it was for the horn, basically, to go along with the clock.
Thank you.
Very good. Okay, takes us to 5.03, approval of financial items. And I will take a motion to do so.
So moved.
Ms. Neely has made the motion to approve the financial items.
Second.
And Ms. Smalley has seconded. All in favor of approval of financial items signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, no.
I'm going to abstain from the vote tonight, please.
Okay. One abstention and 4 in favor.
I think Drew has the information he wants.
Absolutely, sir.
I do have an update on that last vouchers payable, and I apologize for the delay. That is actually, that is some textbooks for health science and law and public safety in our CTE program. And that is, I think it's an electronic textbook is actually what it is. But it's come, that they're using some of their CTE grant funds in order to fund that purchase. Okay.
Thank you.
Very good. All right. We move to Section 6, the Personnel section. We have 6.01 and administrative leave. Approval. We've talked about, we have 6.02, which is the, we have some resignations, request for leave of absence. Professional.
Mr. President,
Yes, sir.
I'd like to move that we go into executive session, please. To discuss legal matters.
Personnel.
5038P.
That's it. Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Thank you. Not sure what.
All right, we have a motion to go into executive session for 5038P
Can we go ahead and add 6.01 to that as well?
and 6.01. We have a motion. Do you want to add 6.01 to your motion?
Yeah, I move we
minutes.
go into executive session for, is this 6 or 5?
5.
5038P and 6.01.
Okay, we have a motion to go into executive session for those personnel matters. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, we have a second. The motion is for executive session to discuss personnel matters on 6.01 and 5038P. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, the motion carries. We are now in executive session. I'm going to the bathroom.
down, it's not winter. It's going to be in the 90s this week.
Okay, I need a motion to return to open session.
So moved. Second.
Ms. Childers moved. Ms. Smalley has seconded. All in favor of returning to open session signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, we are in the personnel section, and per a request earlier in the evening, I'm going to ask for a motion on item 5038P, resignation, professional personnel, Daniel Miles.
I've got one more question about that I neglected to ask. Do we have a copy of the actual resignation that he submitted?
Yeah.
Is there a way we can get that real
Yeah.
quick? I'm sure it's probably we can't get that. Okay. I apologize. I mean, this is my first time doing all of this, so I'm learning, guys. It's okay.
That's fine. I have it right here if you want me to hand it to him.
You have?
That's fine, yeah.
Oh, excellent. Thank you.
Thank you.
Actually, I think,
That's all I needed to see. Thank you.
so I'm looking for a motion on item 5038P, the resignation listed in the agenda. It's on page 10.
I move that we accept Mr. Miles's resignation.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor of accepting of item 5038P, the resignation, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
Aye.
All right. I will also now take a recommendation for the rest of the,
Mr. President, I'm used to saying Madam President. Mr. President, we skipped over 6.01.
right.
Okay, were you going back to that, or?
Oh, yeah, my fault.
Oh, you're fine.
60. So I missed 6.01, my bad. 6.01 administrative leave for professional personnel. We just need a motion to approve that.
So moved.
Okay, Ms. Neely has made the motion. I need a second.
Second.
Ms. Smalley has seconded. All in favor of approving 6.01 administrative leave professional personnel, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, now we can look at the rest of 6.02, minus the one we've already voted on, and 6.03, the service personnel section. And we can go back to 6.04, approval of all the personnel items that have not previously been voted on. Is that good?
Mr. Polly, pardon the interruption. We need to also
Oh,
recognize the changes that
thank
were
you.
addressed earlier.
Yes, and also that incorporates the changes that Mr. Boggs had alerted us to with a few strike-throughs and removals that were noted earlier in the meeting.
So moved.
Okay, we have a motion to accept to approve the personnel items.
Second.
And Ms. Smalley has seconded. So all in favor of approval of the personnel items with the changes noted, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
Mr. President, sorry, point of order.
I'm sorry, Mom.
You're good. 6.01, we need to name the person as Michael Rowe. So-
Okay. Sorry, that's why you gave me.
Hey, we're
This is my first time too. 6.01, that we approved administrative leave for professional personnel. The professional personnel was Michael Rowe. Are we square now? Okay, thank you. All right, that will then take us to Section 7, Special Board Items, and we have listed on there 7.01, the County Board of Education self-appraisal that was completed and submitted recently, completed by the previous board prior to July 1st, and submitted to the State Department prior to August 15th. Anybody want to say anything about that, or?
Yeah, hopefully brief. Mr. Hardesty, did you have a time to look at the results of the evaluation and any thoughts on it?
To be honest with you, I have not. I just have not.
That's a good answer.
Yeah.
Yeah, I looked at it briefly, and I just noticed everything was agree or strongly disagree. It was all positive. The only place where there was a mixture of dissension was, is the county clear on its goals and how we're measuring those and our outcomes as we're moving forward? So I just wanted to throw it out there that I think it's very important that we're strategic and smart about how we measure our progress.
Yeah.
Absolutely, and in the very near future, I'll be bringing you goals for this year for me as well, and those will be something that we present to the board and the board votes on as well.
Thank you.
And just for your information, the self-appraisal is something that each person completes independently, and it asks those questions, and you choose how you respond. And then it's completed anonymously, so no names attached. And then that is sent to the State Department of Education. And there's nothing attached to it as far as, other than the requirement that it be completed. And so, all right, so we have approval of special board items. Take a motion to approve Section 7.
I move we.
Ms. Neely makes the motion,
Second.
and Mr. Byers second. All in favor of approval?
I have a question.
Oh, sure.
So that's just the self-appraisal. That's all
That's
we're
it,
approving
yep.
there, right?
Right. And just basically saying we submitted that, and the State Department acknowledged receipt of that. It's a requirement that we have to
right.
submit it by a certain time. So, yeah, so the motion's been made and seconded. All in favor of approval signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, and any opposed? All right. Ms. Hornbuckle-Myers, do we have any update on current legal issues?
Yes, I will be brief.
Okay. So I need a motion for us to go into executive session for an update on current legal issues.
So moved.
Ms. Neely has made the motion,
Second.
and Mr. Byers again has seconded. All in favor of going to executive session for an update on current legal issues, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? No. All right. We are in executive session. Okay, I just need a motion to return to open session.
Move we return to open
Okay,
session.
Mr. Byers made the motion. Ms. Neely seconded. And we are back in open session, and we are at number 9. I just need a motion to adjourn.
Move to adjourn.
So moved.
All right, it's been moved by multiple people, but I'm gonna put Mr. Byers. Mr. Byers moved to adjourn, and we need and Ms. Neely seconded. So all in favor of adjournment signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? We are adjourned.